It was my freshman year at Samford, first semester, New Testament class. The late Dr. Billy Harris was the professor. One morning, Dr. Harris told us to get out a piece of paper. He gave us a pop quiz on the assigned reading, which I had not done. So I improvised. I looked on someone else's paper and copied the answers. I cheated. At the conclusion of the quiz, Dr. Harris said, nonchalantly and looking at no one in particular, if you looked on another person's paper, then just don't hand in your paper. Well, my heart sank. He had seen me. When the papers arrived from behind me, I just passed them on and left my paper on my desk. I had forfeited my professor's confidence. To cheat was unfair to those who had actually done the work. And 47 years later, I still feel somewhat ashamed. I saw Dr. Harris 30 years after that, by the way. I reminded him of what I'd done and thanked him for his grace. Somehow that story came to mind as I prepared this week to talk about the Ten Commandments. Welcome to TV, Tennessee Valley Church. We've been walking through the Ten Commandments and we've come to number 9. Do not bear false witness against your neighbor. Today, we talk about honesty. Billy Joel, way back in 1979, sang it. Beyoncé recorded it in 2008. The song says, if you search for tenderness, it isn't hard to find. But if you look for truthfulness, you might as well be blind. Honesty is such a lonely word. Everyone is so untrue. Honesty is hardly ever heard and mostly what I need from you. Have you ever seen an honesty quiz? Maybe taken one? They ask questions like, would you use another person's address to get your child into a better school? Or if you were filling out a form for health insurance, would you conceal information about a previous injury or illness if you thought it would get you better rates? The results always show that most of us are honest when convenient. But God demands that we be uncompromisingly honest at all times. Proverbs 6 tells us there are 7 things that nauseate God. Among the 7, 2 are a false witness that speaks lies and a lying tongue. And in Proverbs 12 we read, the Lord detests lying lips, but He delights in people who are trustworthy. God seethes when we are dishonest and beams with parent-like pride when we make tough but honest decisions. The context in which the 9th commandment is set sounds like the courtroom. Don't testify falsely against your neighbor. But every scholar I can find on this topic believes the commandment extends beyond the courtroom to all our interactions. This commandment clearly applies to lies, dishonesty, deceit of any kind. For any lie, dishonesty, or deceit is harmful to our neighbors. Don't bear false witness, like the other commandments, has broad application. Let's take the big picture look at this commandment, and let's start with integrity. Being honest at all times means not only telling the truth, it also means being the same person, acting the same way, saying the same thing wherever we are and with whomever we happen to be. Have you ever looked closely at a bat? From a distance, they look like birds, for they have wings and fly. Their faces, though, look like the faces of animals, of rodents specifically. The Yoruba people, the people among whom we lived and worked in Nigeria, have a legend about the bats. It goes like this. Long, long ago, there was a war between the birds and the animals. The fighting was fierce and the hatred was bitter. Well, the bats were cowardly. They didn't want to run the risk of getting hurt by anyone. So whenever the birds came around, the bats said, "Don't hurt us, we're birds. See the wings? We're birds just like you." But then when the animals came around, the bats would say, "Hey, don't hurt us, we're animals. See our faces? We're animals just like you." And their deception worked for a while, but eventually the birds and the animals both wised up. They realized that they both had been duped. And the birds and the animals were so angry that they both vowed they would kill the bats if they ever caught them out. So, according to the Yoruba legend, that's why the bats only come out at night, when they are safe from the birds and the animals. Have you ever been batty? Have you ever acted one way when it was advantageous to act that way, and another way when it was advantageous to act another way? That's the definition of duplicity, the opposite of integrity. The word integrity comes from the Latin word meaning whole. Integrity means the state of being complete, not divided. To be a person of integrity is to be the same on Saturday night and Monday morning as we are on Sunday morning. The same with the church group as with our club group or school group. Truly the same on the inside as we appear to be on the outside. Jesus was a model of integrity. For example, when Jesus was being interrogated on the night before His crucifixion about His teachings, Jesus answered, "I have spoken openly to the world. I spoke nothing in secret." Jesus said, "I always have been consistent. I have said the same thing. You can poll the publicans or the prostitutes. You can summon the Sadducees or my supporters. You can phone the Pharisees or the fishermen or my family, and you will hear the same thing from them all," Jesus said. "I am the same, and I say the same with whomever I am." It takes a lot of courage to be the same person, to act the same way and say the same thing no matter where we are or with whom we are. Sometimes that's uncomfortable. But Job of the Hebrew Scriptures declared, "As long as I have life within me, the breath of God in my nostrils, till I die, I will not deny my integrity." Don't bear false witness means integrity. It also means impartiality. In Acts 10 and Romans 2 we read, God does not show partiality. And James 2 says, show no partiality. If you show partiality, you are committing sin. Impartiality means treating people the same whether they can help us or not, whether they are influential or not. Impartiality also means treating people kindly, honestly, respectfully, fairly, whether they treat us well or not, whether we like them or not. There was a famous trial back in my hometown of Anniston in 2002, Abernathy versus Monsanto. It was the trial over a $700 million lawsuit which Monsanto lost. In the book My City Was Gone, Dennis Love recounted that fascinating story. Circuit Judge Joel Laird presided over the circus called a trial and, quite frankly, found it hard not to get too ticked off at the team of defense lawyers. Their pompous attitude got under Judge Laird's skin, and the overbearing barristers often seemed downright antagonistic toward the good judge. How did the judge handle that? Dennis Love quoted him. "I'm human," Judge Laird later admitted. "I was bothered by it, but it just made me more determined to be as fair and impartial as I could be and keep everything on track." Laird was honest. Being even-handed sometimes requires gritting our teeth and treating everyone fairly, even when it hurts. Good judges do it, though. Jesus did it too. To the rich and to the poor, to the men who were proud of their positions, and to the women who were ashamed of their profession. Jesus modeled impartiality. Honesty means impartiality. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor. Let's talk about timidity. You see, we can bear false witness without saying a word. We can be dishonest by not saying anything, by not speaking up with the truth when someone is being slandered. We can damage someone's reputation by being too timid to speak up with the truth when someone is being unfairly criticized, falsely accused. According to Jewish law, if a person had evidence that would be of help in a trial and did not offer that evidence, then he or she would be as guilty as one who gave false evidence. Leviticus 5:1 says, "If anyone does not speak up when they know they have relevant information, they will be held responsible." In that is a really important truth. It's just as wrong not to defend someone who's being charged unfairly as it is to charge someone unfairly. It's just as wrong not to clear somebody as it is to smear somebody. We bear false witness by remaining timidly, cowardly silent when the truth would protect someone under attack. In fact, the silence of good people is often more disappointing than the slander of hateful people. In a few minutes, I'll be back to talk about authenticity.
How great this love, oh, it's moving all my mountains. This perfect love, it's casting out my fear. How great this love, oh, it welcomes me like family. And anywhere I go, it meets me there. 'Cause He is good, He is God. What I earn, it's not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve, it's not what I find. What more could I say about my God's love? How great this love, oh, it's faithful through my failure. This trusted love is with me till the end. How great this love, oh, it's closer than a brother. This is love, He died so I could live. He is good, He is God. What I earn, it's not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve, it's not what I find. What more could I say about it? My God is love. He is love. I know my God is love. I know my God is love. This is enough to know my God is love. I know my God is love. I know my God is love. This is enough to know my God is love. I know my God is love. I know my God is love. This is enough to know my God is love. I know my God is love. I know my God is love. This is enough to know my God is love. He is good. He is God. What I earn, it's not what I got. He is just, yet oh so kind. What I deserve, it's not what I find. What more could I say about my God's love? What more could I say about my God, His love? What more could I say about it? My God is love.
We hear a lot lately about artificial intelligence. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? AI specialist and Huntsville native Charles is joining us from Silicon Valley to share his thoughts on emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence or AI. Good to see you, Charles.
Good to see you, Lisa.
In the context of machines creating new media, can you help us understand what is AI?
Yeah, AI can refer to any sort of simulation of human intelligence by machines. But when we think about creating new media, we're talking about an area of machine learning called generative AI. And this is where a model learns to simulate human creativity by learning from a large number of text, audio, images, or even video. And then it's able to produce new content from prompts it may have never seen before.
Today we hear a lot about plagiarism and AI. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, when we talk about passing off someone else's work as your own, obviously that's not new. Like, students have been doing this for a long time. But what's changed in the last year or so is that it's been much easier and cheaper and faster to create new content that's never been seen before, and it might be harder to detect. And so while I'm not an educator, I know many have had to adapt their assignments in order to deal with this rise in new technology. But it's not limited to just education. We've seen examples of professionals passing off AI's work as their own and getting in trouble. So for example, last year there was a case of two lawyers in New York who filed a motion with the court and using ChatGPT, and it was citing cases that didn't exist. And so I think we're going to have to think critically about where the line between a tool and plagiarism lies. Like in the case of the lawyers, the judge said it wasn't that ChatGPT was used to write the brief, it was more that the lawyers didn't check the output. So as more and more professionals are writing emails or reports or documents with these tools, it may not be the source of the writing that's important in that case, so long as the ideas are original, but the output. But on the other hand, for students where writing is part of the goal, learning to write, they may have another set of factors when determining the ethics with using AI and plagiarism here.
We also hear a lot about images or phony videos produced by AI. What are the potential dangers, and what hope do we have for knowing what's true?
Yeah, AI-generated visual media is presenting an entirely new set of challenges for our society. Again, this isn't entirely new. We've had tools like Photoshop that have allowed folks to create small tweaks, large tweaks, and entire fabrications for a while. But what's changed in the last year and a half or so is that now it's easy to create things very quickly at scale, and it's in the hands of many more people. It doesn't require a lot of skill to use. While much of the media being created this way is innocuous and helpful, this ease of creation is creating new considerations. And when we talk about bearing false witness to one another, these types of creations usually contain sometimes obvious artifacts that show they're generated, but often that's not enough as maybe you're casually scrolling on social media to notice. So for example, last year there was a famous case of Pope Francis in a puffer coat, which was very amusing, but many folks didn't realize that this was an AI-generated image. And so while this example is amusing, it's very easy to imagine how someone could use this more maliciously, potentially to spread misinformation, seed doubt in real content, or blackmail, or even depicting folks in false or even explicit situations. And as we look towards a year with elections, we're already seeing examples of this type of thing being used for political purposes. But I remain really optimistic because a lot of the leaders in this space are already working on ways to do authentication and detection and working with policymakers to make commitments to combat misuse. And I also think for society more broadly, as we become more aware of this type of thing and have a healthy skepticism, then we'll learn to recognize that this type of information, whether it's created by AI or not. And so these technologies have such a profound impact on our society and such a potential for good. And so I'm really excited to see how people use them.
I think one thing we know is true is that artificial intelligence is here to stay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Charles.
Thanks, Lisa.
Today we're talking about the 9th commandment. Do not bear false witness against your neighbor. Let's talk about authenticity. Ephesians 4:25 in the Message translation reads, "No more lies, no more pretense. Tell your neighbor the truth. In Christ's body, we're all connected to each other after all." Over a year ago, when we began the series, The 12 Steps for Us All, at our church, we all wore stickers that Sunday morning that read, "I've got issues." We did that to remind each other and ourselves that we all need some work. No one has a monopoly on the need for grace. And one of the best gifts we can offer each other is to acknowledge that we need work, to share our vulnerability, our transparency, non-hypocrisy, to be honest about our pain, our wounds, to be authentic. I'm not talking about whining or wallowing in self-pity or making people miserable by talking all the time about our own misery. I'm not talking about using our problems to get attention. I am, however, talking about being open about our wounds, being honest about our own struggles. It's appropriate and it can be a great gift to others. I've seen it personally. On those occasions when I've said publicly, "Let me tell you about my own pain," people have come out of the woodwork. "Well, let me tell you my story," people have said. "I'd like to share with you our family struggles," people have said. There are 2 levels of authenticity. One is with a large circle, your church family if you have one, or your circle of friends if you don't. With those folks, we simply don't pretend we're something we're not, and we share our hurts and struggles when appropriate. The other, deeper level of authenticity is among a trusted few or an individual to whom we can confess everything. A small circle or an individual for whom there's no lying and pretending. Complete, naked, unvarnished honesty. There's such freedom in coming clean. I did that as part of our 12 Steps journey last year with a close and trusted friend. I told the embarrassing stuff, the ugly stuff, all the stuff. And I walked away with a freedom I can't really describe. People who have worked the 12 steps nod and smile when I tell them that. It's liberating to come clean with somebody. Again, hear Ephesians 4:25. No more lies, no more pretense. Tell your neighbor the truth. In Christ's body, we're all connected to each other after all. Authenticity makes us healable. When we confess to someone, we come to a place of honesty where God can really change us. Well, to wrap this up, let's make the commitment together. I will not be dishonest, even about the little things. I will be consistent, no matter where I am or with whom I am. I will not deny the truth. I will speak up for the truth. I will be authentic and transparent. I will be honest, even when it is to my disadvantage. It's simple, really. Let's be honest.
Be thou my vision, O Lord of my heart, not be all else to me, save that thou art. Thou my best thought by day or by night, waking or sleeping, thy presence my life. Be thou my wisdom and thou my true word. I ever with thee and thou with me, Lord. Thou my great Father, I thy true Son. Thou in me dwelling, and I with thee one. Riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise. Thou mine inheritance now and always. Thou and thou only first in my heart. High King of heaven, my treasure thou art. High King of heaven, my victory won. May I reach heaven's joys, oh bright heaven's sun. Heart of my own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, no ruler of all. Heart of my own heart, whatever befall, still be my vision, no ruler of all.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Boone, Minister of Missions at First Baptist Huntsville. To be a follower of Jesus means that you're on mission. God calls all of us to join our hearts with God's heart for the world. I hope that you'll join us as we seek to be the church in the heart of the city, with a heart for the region and for the world. You can visit the missions page on our website to find different ways to serve right where you are, or you can join us as we travel outside of our city and throughout our world. You can also email me at tim@fbchsv.org. I'd love to hear from you.
This episode of TV Church wasn't created using generative AI. That is, except for this clip. See you next week.